really no other way to do it. After 9/11 had occurred and I realized that my friend had been correct in his prediction, I began to look differently at everything that had transpired in my youth. I began reading everything I could find on related subjects, and I came back here to the Ohio Valley and the Kanawha Valley several times, interviewing several people. I interviewed about 50 people who've either had direct experiences or are in-depth researchers. I searched for the places where, I shot about 7,000 photographs during that time. There's an artist named Vito Acconci. He's a crazy performance artist. And he has a quote: "Art is what you do when you're doing something else in life." It's sort of the idea that there isn't a whole lot of support for art, at least in our country, and so you end up doing other things. And for me, that's been researching the paranormal. So I was taking photographs and looking for Mothman energy wherever I could find it. I sort of had a sense of it because when I was a child, I saw what I think was Mothman a couple of different times. And so you sort of get a sense of when he's around. And it's an intuitive thing. And so I started to try to use my photography to look at places and try to figure it out. Along the way, the phenomenon seemed to interact with me, placing obvious synchronicities in my path as a kind of validation that I was going in the right direction. And during the course of the investigation, I began to wonder if I had subconsciously been following a life course influenced by my original interactions with the phenomenon. I began to suspect that my photos and drawings and paintings and video footage might contain pieces of Mothman code. This led me to look more closely at anything I could remember about my early encounters with my friend who predicted 9/11. And I could remember some other things that he talked about that involved things that were actually what happened this year when I was 47. And some of those things did come true. The way I describe it here is, after a string of minutely detailed synchronicities far too precise to be mere coincidence, it just so happened that my life changed in unexpected ways. And suddenly the phenomenon ceased. So in some sense, I got a signal when I was a child that this 5-year period after 9/11 was going to be very important and that I needed to work really hard, and then it was going to end. And sure enough, it did. I realized that the 5-year period following 9/11 could be interpreted as some kind of cosmic setup or time loop where my decisions still mattered despite falling within a preordained context. It's kind of a difficult thing to understand, but there were limits placed on what was going to happen, but I had a certain amount of wriggle room for my personal decision making. Once the spell was broken and I was free, I understood that the 2002 energy field event described in this book, in 2002, we actually went back to the spot where several people had seen different creatures. And I guess the interesting thing about the mound story is that several people saw different creatures in the same spot, including Mothman. We had the Virgin Mary, Mothman, aliens, cigar-shaped UFOs, balls of light, black panthers. I saw a figure come out of a tree that scared the living daylights out of me. But we went back to the spot and we encountered, and one of my team members is here. She could tell you that we saw these 3 shimmering beings or something, some kind of mist. And the way I describe it here is that event may be interpreted as showing that Mothman presents electromagnetic mirrors to us, to see ourselves. It allows us to see ourselves and other parts of the human matrix. And Mothman, if you want to call it Mothman, it's more like a phenomenon. It observes our responses and reports back to another person. Because there's a connection between all of us. We're all sort of energy bundles, picking up signals, a lot of them which we can't see, and Keel called that the superspectrum. But we can all send signals to each other in certain ways, and this is why people will pick up prophecies about what they think is the Mothman, and they're really about other events and things that other people are doing. And just in July, I ended up talking about something that happened in July this year. I was being given an energy healing by a psychic who had cleared my house. I was having lots of problems in my house, poltergeists, bent doorknobs, slamming of doors, all kinds of strange things. I had not told her about Mothman. While treating me, she had a strong vision of a memory that I was having while she was treating me. And I was having a memory of Woodward Drive when I was 10 years old. And I had an experience when I was 10 where I experienced some sort of brief enlightenment. And it went away, but it's sort of how it works. You get these little bits of it here and there. And when the session was over, the psychic told me that she had missed one visual detail, that there had been a man bat that could morph watching from the trees when I was 10 years old. And so I guess to sum that up, you can sort of say that I view Mothman as not as a demon, but as more as the way the Buddhists view him, as a protector deity who actually aids the process of human growth, of moving forward, coming to challenges. You know, the Mothman is like whenever you come to a difficult time, there's a fear there, and the Mothman sort of works through fear. It's a scary thing, but once you work through that, there's a lot of benefits that can come from it. If you talk to any of the Mothman witnesses here today, as I've done, you'll find that they all have had some unusual psychic things happen since their sighting. And like Faye DeWitt, who realized that she shouldn't put her kids on the bus one day, and the bus had an accident and several children were killed. So it's a beneficial thing. It can be a beneficial thing. I'm not saying that everyone should go out and start trying to contact Mothman, because it's not that simple, but there can be some benefits from it if you approach it with respect. So, you know, I was going to call my talk 20 Good Things About Mothman. I never really got around to making a list, so I'll call it like X number of okay things about Mothman. Bad joke. I'm sort of a practicer of intuitive organization. And right now I'm just going to sense where we should go next. Anybody got any questions right now from my intro that I gave? The speaker guy? Nobody's here. These guys are, oh, there you go. Everybody's like, what's he talking about? I get that all the time. I'm used to it.
Well, then what are your number of okay things about the Mothman? Do you have, like, tease us with one of them?
Question.
Oh, we do? Okay.
I can always jump into my random notes.
On your DVD series, you talk about an experience that you thought was a dream, where you and your family had an MIB encounter, and this was long before, you know, knowing anything about John Keel or the lore of the Ohio Valley. And then later on, you revisit your house with a lady who was a sensitive, and she seemed to be getting the impression that this was actually a real experience and not a dream. Could you kind of recount that experience?
Recount it?
Yeah, just get a general idea what happened.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, I had this nightmare. I kept having this nightmare about this event where members of the family were sitting around in our darkened living room in the middle of the night, and we were being interrogated by a man in black. Two guys, and I kind of woke up. I was the youngest in the family, and I think that was, you know, I've studied hypnotherapy, and one of the things that you find out is that young kids can't be hypnotized as well. It's very difficult. You have to do a lot of stuff. So I think that I simply, if this was a real event, I happened to wake up and I faked it. I just sort of played it along, like I was still in a trance, but I wasn't. And I just sort of kept that to myself for a long time. And then I talked to my sister, who's only 3 years older than me, and she said the same thing. Yeah, that she had that same dream. So it's kind of nebulous. I'm not claiming that, you know, for sure that it happened, but there's some things in our family where some of us have had the same dream about some other things too. And then one day we don't get together that often, but we'll get together and it'll come up. You know, what have you been dreaming about? Or I'll bring it up, and then everybody will say, yeah, I had that same dream about that train trestle in St. Albans. I'm still trying to figure out what the train trestle in St. Albans is. And it's strange because sometimes you'll think you have the answer because it apparently seems like these clues are pointing in a direction, and then it turns out that they don't quite point in that direction. So you always have to be very careful about what you claim you think has happened.